Hello and welcome to the Foria YouTube channel. I'm so excited today to be here with our guest, Susan Bratton. We're going to do some introductions and then we're going to get into a fantastic conversation about all of the things we're seeing in the world around sexuality, in relationships, and how Foria products benefit. So I'm your host, Kiana Reeves. I'm a somatic sex educator and Foria's Chief Education Officer. And our guest today is Susan Bratton. I would love for you to tell our audience about who you are, your background, and how you got into this particular field of work.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's so great to be with you, and congratulations on the launch of the YouTube channel.
Thank you.
I have, I think, 488 videos on YouTube already. So it's just a fantastic medium to reach out to people, and sexuality is definitely blowing up right now. And I'm so pleased to be part of the Foria team as one of your spokespeople, as a spokesperson for Foria. I call myself the intimacy expert to millions. And for the last couple of decades, this is my second career. Through having almost gotten divorced because I wanted to want my husband for sex, but I didn't. And realizing that I wasn't broken, there was nothing wrong. We just didn't know what we didn't know. And finally having my first orgasm at 42. Now I'm 63. Huzzah!
Love it.
I'm 63 and I'm having the best sex of my life. My vulva's never been juicier, which is something I can lovingly say to you, Kiana, and you'll be in full appreciation of it. Other people are like, what did she just say? But that led me to my second career, realizing that having great sex is, first of all, our birthright, something that we not only deserve, but that helps us live a longer, happier, healthier life. And that it's all just a bunch of learned skills. And not only that, but I call sexuality a series of little hinges that swing big doors. It's like you hear this thing, you're like, all right, that makes sense to me. I'm going to try that out. You try it out. And it might not work the first time, but it works by the third time. Give things 3 times. And then you're like, oh, this is good. And I just started learning about passionate lovemaking. What I wanted to do was to create a catalog, essentially, of passionate lovemaking techniques. What I like to call heart-connected, conscious, passionate lovemaking techniques. And I think that's very important, to bring your heart to the pleasure, not just the friction of genitals getting you off, but the bliss and ecstasy of lovemaking. The consciousness being, I'm down for my sexuality. I'm good for great sex. I'm showing up. I'm present. I'm bringing my mindfulness to this interaction. I'm looking to co-create incredible pleasure with my lover or myself. Mm-hmm. And I think those are very important tenets of what I've done. And I've written 44 books and programs over the last 20 years, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sex techniques. And I've really focused on what I would call lovemaking techniques, being held and holding, different kinds of touch, how to be an elegant and sensual kisser, oral pleasuring, manual pleasuring. Yoni massage is one of the cornerstones of the things that I teach people, and intercourse techniques, because there's a very big difference between how you might operate the machinery if you were just trying to make a baby versus, or procreate. I would even take it down to that, because when you're trying to make a baby, you're trying to make a beautiful child of the love that you share with someone. And so it's not a functional thing. It's actually mind, body, spirit. There are so many techniques. They're not shown in movies. They're not shown in porn, because that's male-centric, pleasure-oriented. And what I have found is that men and women, people across the gender spectrum, want couple-oriented pleasure.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's what I've been working on. So that's what I do. I write bedroom communication skills. I write hot sex techniques, and I teach intimate wellness. And that's what led me to you.
I love it. It's such a, I mean, you're so prolific in what you
Oh
teach
God,
and who you work with. I mean, I know that you're a force of nature. After the many conversations we've had, I'm always come away and I'm like, man, she's just so rock star. You're supporting so many people. And I think what would be interesting for our audience to learn about is like, what are some of the things you're seeing for couples or for women at different ages of life, right? Like we're talking motherhood, we're talking menopause, we're talking young women. Who are the people that you're working with, and what are their commonalities and the things they're bumping into, the challenges that they're facing?
Yeah, that's such a good question because there are definitely life stages to our sexuality. So, one thing that I like to tell people right away is your sexual maturation is part of your overall maturation. And that if you put your intention on having a great sex life, if you kind of fight for it and go around obstacles, overcome them, solve problems, but just fight for having pleasurable experiences your whole life long, you're going to mature sexually.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great about that is that you just keep getting better and better in bed. I mean, not to brag, but like, I am so good in bed now.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. Yeah.
I'm massively orgasmic. I have tons of fun ideas. I don't have any body shame or any body image issues. I've let them all go.
Yeah.
God, did I have them like all women do. It's part of our estrogenic complex, in both directions. Complexes in our hormonal complex and complexes, and it makes our brains crazy. I have lots of good ideas. I've realized that sex not only keeps getting better, but you want to try new things as you grow and mature, and that it's part of your personal maturation process. And so the quality of the confidence, the joy, the pleasure, the connection, the orgasmic skill set that I have, the kinds of orgasms that I can have, a lot of what I talk about is orgasmic activation, orgasmic cross training, the 20 kinds of orgasms that the human body can have, not just the female body, the human body. Good old
Did you say
Homo
20?
sapien. 20. And
Okay.
20 is a wild card because there's always more. I'm always discovering more pleasure pathways. What I find is when I talk to 20-year-olds, they come to me and they say, sex is not as good as I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if I'm asexual, or I just don't feel like I'm doing a good job. That's what the young men say. I'm let down. I'm disappointed. It's not meeting my expectations. My friends are all acting like it's super great, but I think they're bullshitting.
Totally.
And so that's the 20s. Then the 30s are like, I am exhausted. Mm-hmm. I'm building my career. I'm trying to have my kids, or I'm having my kids. I'm raising my kids. I got no time.
Yep.
How do I hold on to my sex life? Mm-hmm. And then in the 40s, it's like, there are some things I have not gotten, and I'm kind of pissed off about it. Are you relating to all this?
I'm not in my 40s yet, but I my personal work with clients, like these are the things that I love thematically exist within, generalization of like a 10-year period.
Exactly. And so in the 40s, there you kind of get to a crossroads where you're either like, I'm going to fight for it, or you're like, I'm just going to let it go. I don't really, and I feel very badly for the people who have had disappointment, cultural shame, religious programming, traumas, inability to find partners who could give them the love and the attention and the pleasure that they deserved. And they kind of fall off and they take the other fork in the road. And I just don't try to talk people back into things. I just work with the people who are a hell yes.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, you would like to know how to have really hot sex? Well, let's go. You gotta fish where the fish are. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think they are the minority of people who are fighting for their sex life. And so having the opportunity to be on your YouTube channel and catch a couple of people who are on the fence that fence gets painful to sit on. So just
Yeah.
come on over with Kiana and I, because we have it going on. I promise you, it's not as hard as you think. It's very simple to transform your sex life, and you can have sexual renaissances, multiple, throughout your entire life. So that's your 40s. Your 40s is fork in the road. Your 40s is, I'm not having an orgasm. I'm not doing it. I'm just not good. And you, by your fit, you start to, if you're going to go down that path, you start to go, okay, well, what's out there? What can I do? Am I interested in Tantra, kink, BDSM, passionate lovemaking? What am I looking for? Am I looking for some more sensations, more excitement, more variety, more experiences, different kinds of orgasms, more partners, more, one deep ecstatic relationship? And you kind of find your way to that, because sexuality is such a vast landscape that people enter it, from all over the place. Yeah. So there's that. And then in your 50s, you get to the point where you're like, ooh, I'm starting to feel my mortality. It's use it or lose it, which is where, for most women, the intimate wellness piece begins to enter stage right. And they're beginning to notice the loss of estrogen, the lowering of their hormones generally, the loss of nitric oxide, not having as much blood flow to the genitals, not having the same lubrication they used to, and even the beginnings of loss of sensation and more difficulty achieving orgasm. And loss of sensation, loss of lubrication, those two are the biggest. And the third, for many women, vaginal laxity, or I feel like my vagina is fused shut. That isn't going in the right direction for whichever one problem that you have. The 60s, women they've kind of gotten through. They're with their regenerative practices. They're using their red light. They're getting their gains waves. They're using multiple sex toys to keep everything juicy. They've got their Foria going. They're doing those things. And now they're like, how young is too young to have sex with? Is there?
Yeah. Can I go to the 20s?
Go.
I love that.
He seems to be interested in me. Should I have sex with him? And, so that's another thing that I really find is wonderful, is that I also am speaking to people in their 70s, their 80s, and I have a couple of followers who are in their 90s.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
One of them passed a year ago, and I still miss his reports because I have a sex tips newsletter.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
This is what I do. I write sex tips 5 days a week and send them out. And I love doing that. And people reply to me because we develop a relationship. I write to you. And so everybody's telling me their stories. And that is the most satisfying part of my job.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
The details of the things that people are doing, the experiences, the awakenings, the new heights of sexual self-confidence that people are achieving in this era of sexual expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to circle back to the pleasure protocol, because it's something that we, it's our 3 products: the Awaken Arousal Oil, the Sex Oil, and the Intimacy Melts.
Yes.
And they're designed to work together. And I love the name you gave it, the pleasure protocol. And I love how you educate people on how to use these formulas synergistically for the best experience. So I would love, walk me through how you would share that with someone. Walk me through the pleasure protocol and what it might do for your sex life.
Yeah. Well, I think there's 3 equal facets to why the pleasure protocol is so powerful. The first one is the physiologic issue, the emolliency created with the melts inside the vagina, the awaken arousal oil, triggering the mind body connection to get those neural pathways going, the sex oil providing all the slide and glide that really works well and gets engorgement happening. You know, most people do not know that if I took all of the erectile tissue out of a man's penis and put it on the palm of my hand, it would completely cover my hand, because half of his penis sticks out of his body, half goes in and down towards his testicles. And the whole thing is like a banana of erectile tissue. And we women have that same amount of erectile tissue in our vulvovaginal complex, and it would cover the entire palm of our hand. We're innies, our guys are outies, and they have fast acting blood flow to their penis. Just the way it works, it's called hemodynamics, where for female bodied people, it's more of a seeping in. It's more of a slow filling. And what has happened over so many years of us seeing images of male arousal, women think there's something wrong with them because they're not always horny, instantly horny, ready to go. They think, oh, I don't know. I guess I'm just, like there's something wrong with me. And I'm like, girl, no, you are perfect. It's just slow. I mean, even with all that I know, sometimes I have to say to myself, now just let her get there. Yeah. Just relax. There's no rush. And so that sex oil and all of the great manual pleasuring that you can have and the oral pleasuring that you can have and the just relaxation that will allow you to begin to get into arousal is one of the most important things, because we women have been essentially having any kind of sex without being ready. Yeah. We're constantly already making our partner a sandwich before we're even turned on. Like it just goes too fast for women, and we put pressure on ourselves and we think it's our fault. And then our guy thinks it's our fault. And then it's like, well, but we're going to have sex anyway, so that's really difficult. And so I think for the pleasure protocol, the very first piece is that it aids in relaxation, in arousal, in mind-body connection. And so I think that's number one. The second thing that I think is really fantastic about the pleasure protocol is that, of course, you can use it for solo pleasuring. And if you're lucky enough to have a partner, one of the things that I have found in teaching so many people how to do it is that the guys love it. Because number one, they love the right tool for the job. They're like, this is the proper material. This is the proper, oil to use in this particular situation. They're like really nerdy about stuff like that, which I love about men. Yeah. And they really like the 3 stages. One of the things I recommend. So when you do the pleasure protocol, the very first thing that you want to do is you want to start with the melts. First of all, you want to give it a little time to melt. It's pretty quick to melt, but the very first and most important thing that you need to know about Foria melts is that the little ear that you have to pull.
Yeah, because some people really don't know how to open them. Yep.
When you get the little ears and you pull, you can't have oily hands. You have to be able to pull without any oil on your hands. So melts go in first, put a melt in first. That's very important. Also, one of the things that I love about it, in addition to the fact that it smells like a box of candy, and what I also love then, of course, next is awaken. And people tend to overuse this. It is honestly so beautifully profound that you only need a couple of drops spread onto the labia, the mons, the outer labia, the inner labia, the clitoral hood, the clitoral shaft and tip, the vestibule, the vaginal opening, which is called the introital sphincter. I know you know this, Kiana. All of that delicately and lightly touched, boom, there goes your brain. Oh, no, I like that. Your body will love awaken. So I love that. And then, of course, the sex oil, which it's just MCT oil And CBD is nothing in it. It's so pure. And what's so interesting is that I like to say that lube is so last century. And the reason that I say that is that you want as much slide and glide as you need, reapply it as often as you can. But this is like a super refined, elegant, beautiful, just so smooth, this oil. Like when you stroke your partner, it just feels incredible on their body. It feels wonderful to them, not just you. And the problem with lubes that you go to the drugstore and get is that they're FDA class 2 certified products, so they have to have preservatives in them. But that's not even the worst part about all the junk in the grocery stores. It's that it's kind of like the ultra processed food world, where
totally.
we used to eat real whole things. I mean, processed foods are things like dairy or cheese or yogurt. That's a processed food. What I'm talking about are ultra processed foods, where they took out all of the real natural things and turned it into flavorings and chemicals and additives and thickeners and all these big industrial compounds that make you think it's good for you or you like it or you're tasty or what have you, but it provides no nutrition. Not only that, I don't want that stuff in my body.
Absolutely.
And that's why when we met John, when my husband Tim met John, that's how we got connected. And Tim came home all excited about it. We had been, as a sexpert, I had been searching for decades, looking for some kind of sexual pleasure oil of some kind that I was willing to put on my vulva.
Absolutely.
Because if I wouldn't put it in here, I wouldn't put it in there. And so we had been using organic refined avocado oil. And then they got rid of the organic and I couldn't find any. Or I could find organic, but it wasn't refined. So it stained my lingerie and my sheet screen. And it got sticky after a while, but I wasn't going to use some crazy thing from the drugstore and put that in my body. No way. I don't even eat bottled salad dressing. I make it from extra virgin olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and I mix it up at home because it's so easy. And so I think that's why lube is an over and done thing for people who actually care about clean, intimate wellness. And what's interesting, did you see the Mama Vision study that they did?
I didn't.
Oh my God.
Oh, show me. Yes.
They studied 25 different lubricants for one single forever chemical. PFASs are for forever chemicals. And there's one called organic fluorine. It's not the good kind of organic. And they only found 3 brands that didn't have a forever chemical in them.
Ugh.
And I looked at what was in the other 2, and there were benzosorbates and carrageenans and garbage. Yeah. I don't want that in my products. And and Foria was the only company that was 100% beautiful, organic, botanical. Not only that, but your packaging sustainable. It's in amber bottles. Like if you care about recycling, like this is how much of a nerd I am. This is why I love you so much. This is like the diamond in the crown of recyclable materials.
Yes.
We
worked hard for that. We did like a year-long investigation into the most recyclable, lowest environmental footprint possible packaging that we could do. And not a lot of people know that about us because we're not always, we're not the best sometimes at claiming things about ourselves. Yeah.
You can only say so many things to a person. They only have so much time to hear. But I hope so many people watch us and realize what an extraordinary company you all are part of. And I, by association, as your spokesperson, I'm truly honored to be part of it. And I love to sing from the rooftops about how much I love Foria. And you can tell it's truly genuine. Like, I mean, everything you do is right all the ways you take care of your customers, your entire product line. Don't even get me started. Okay, you can, about the breast oil. Lordy,
Favorite.
lordy.
Same. Yeah.
I
it
love
so
the
much.
breast oil so much. This is the most, well, and it's getting quite low. What I love about the breast oil is the smell. First of all, the smell is fantastic. There's like a Pavlovian trigger when you use Foria products that turns you on the minute you smell them. But I used to not like my breasts. I used to be embarrassed about them. Oh God, if I had those boobs now, Kiana. But it took me many, many years to feel comfortable about my breasts. And now the breastgasms that I have are so incredibly orgasmic. I can have orgasm after orgasm after orgasm just having my breasts pleasured with this beautiful
That is amazing.
Yum. It's
That
making
is
my mouth water
amazing.
just thinking about
That's amazing. That's what I love about you. You know, I think one thing that our audience, we have many segments of life, many walks of life coming to us. And one thing that's pretty consistent in our cultural zeitgeist around sex is that there's like a sexual peak, right? That women go through their sexual peak in their 30s. And then the idea of a peak means like that's the top experience you're ever going to have. So post 30s, if we're saying women peak in their sexual 30s, it's all downhill from there. Like that's an absolute tragedy in my opinion. And it's a lie. It's untrue. And you're the embodiment of this, that if you commit to being a lifelong curious learner, particularly around your sexuality, and you study with people like you or myself, and you learn from Foria, and you enrich your life with practices and tools like the ones we use and teach, it really will transform you. And you can end up, in your whatever decade of life you're in, having multiple breastgasms, which most people have never had in their entire life. Ever.
All learned skills. I've learned everything. I was the girl who almost got divorced because I wasn't having orgasms from intercourse. I could barely even have an orgasm. And I was just determined to learn. And when I realized how easy it is, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to figure out all of them and write them down and tell everyone how to do them.
I love it so much. I love it so much. So my last question then is, what's your favorite Foria product for you personally? Like what's the one you use every time with your hubby?
I use them all. I use them all every time.
I know it's a hard question.
I really like the Pleasure Protocol because I like the way that the melts just make your vaginal canal voluptuous.
Yeah.
And I love the arousal oil because it sets that arousal going. And it wakes up and activates the entire vulval tissue. And the thing is that people are very like tip of the clitoris focused, but when you begin to activate all of that tissue, the mons, the outer labia, the inner labia, the vestibule, the clitoral shaft, the clitoral hood, the clitoral tip, the introital sphincter, the internal vaginal cavern, every part of it, it's not a G spot, an A spot, the sir. It's like every part of that, what looks like a balloon in there, all loves stimulation and pleasure and touch and sensation. And the more that you activate it all, the more intensely pleasurable your lovemaking becomes. And so I think Awaken is kind of like the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And then for me, I just like to be very generous with my sex oil. We stop, and what I love about it too is it's just chicka, 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 get a handful.
Use as much as you want. Yeah.
I just hold a penis and go chicka, 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 and slide it, let it slide down. I mean, you can just shoot it right on your own vulva. It's got a good aim. And what I like about that is that it's so refined. It never gets sticky. It works synergistically with the melts and the Awaken. And I'm like I'm holding my boobs up because I'm old. Otherwise they're down in my armpits. I'm doing this, and my boyfriend is like,
yeah.
So
I love it so much. It's so great.
So it's all good. I like the vulva wash. I
Mm-hmm.
like the body oil.
Mm-hmm.
I like the massage oil. I love the booty melts. I was in my 60s before I realized what pleasure there was. And now I love to explore my back door.
There you
So
go.
never say never with your sexuality. And all of your there isn't a clunker in the crew. Every single thing you make is extraordinary and has its place in the array. I mean, honestly, I've had to like move all my stuff aside because I have to have all my Foria things for all my different needs. And I just love them so much.
Oh, I
So
love it.
will you please, at your next company meeting, just take a minute to thank everyone for the extraordinary job that your entire organization does up and down the food chain, from John at the top all the way down to customer care, your warehouse people. I mean, we are in our country today, we need conscious, caring organizations that aren't just using us, but are loving us and birthing into the world products that make our lives better.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things we can do with our time, but lovemaking, holding and hugging, they calm down our cortisol pathways. They intensify our oxytocin. They relieve us from the stress of living in the 21st century.
Mm.
We don't need another movie or thing we buy on Instagram or any of that stuff. What we need is to bring back the joy of good food, good family, nature, music, art, and love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a way to end this amazing interview. Love it. Love it so, so much. I'd love for you to tell people where they can find you if they're interested in working with you, learning from you, anything that you have exciting happening in your world.
Well, I'm about ready to go out on the I do a spring and a fall kind of a speaking tour.
Awesome.
And I am carrying my big box of four with me. I'm talking about, I'm going to be at the Health Span Summit, and I am talking about why extending your sex span lengthens your health span. It's a
Awesome.
longevity conference. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk all about what ageless sexuality really looks like, all those eras of our
Bravo.
sexuality.
Bravo.
And then I'll be speaking at a biohacking conference, and I'll be bringing Foria to the audience there. And sexual biohacking is kind of a combination of two things. It's both regenerative therapies that reverse the atrophy of aging and keep you juicy in your 60s and your 70s, but it's also even going beyond that. It's living up to your orgasmic pleasure potential through
Mm.
things like the orgasmic cross training and things like that. And so I'll be speaking at those two conferences for you. And then I write the email newsletter, betterlover.com. Just go to betterlover.com, sign up for my newsletter, and you'll get tell me about the 20 kinds of orgasms. Okay, that's what I do. So that's where you'll find me. And I welcome you, and I will meet you wherever you are and help you with whatever you need. So that's me.
Fantastic. Thank you so, so much. It was such a pleasure, and looking forward to
Thank you.
chatting with you again really soon.